Hello everyone, and welcome to Straight Chilling. Each week we watch and review a horror film for your entertainment. You can send all questions and comments to straightchillingpodcast@gmail.com, and don't forget to keep chilling.
Yeah, we straight chillin', serial killing. 5 cold feelings on the mind, got you reeling. 5-star ratings from the floor to the ceiling. If you get your 1 star, no time for feelings. Got a demon DJ, all the 1s and 2s. By the name Elzebub, so don't get confused. So grab a seat by the fire, roast them all in 2. And prepare to hear the legend of the Straight Chillin' crew.
What up, nerds? Welcome to an extra salty episode of Straight Chilling. My name's Bob, and I'll be your host for this evening. This is going to be episode number 239, recorded on Monday, October 28th. No, it's not. That's the wrong date. It's November 4th, 2019. Tonight we're going to be talking about The Lighthouse. We're talking about The Lighthouse. Before we get into it,
let me get the date right.
I didn't change
fucking fake news.
We need to go to analog.
I'm like Ron
analog
Burgundy.
calendars.
Every one of us is melting right now. Our brains are just shutting down.
If it's written on the cue card, I read it. First up on the show tonight, calling in from just outside Chicago, we got our boy Randy Gandy G. Landy. What's up, Randy?
Hello. I have nothing to add.
Very, very sweet. Next up, calling in from South Korea, we got our boy Soju. What's up, man?
It's your boy, Salty Seaman Stain.
Disgusting. Last but not least,
Salty semen stains.
Bonus points
Jesus.
for the alliteration.
I mean, it's actually kind of appropriate.
It makes perfect sense in the worst possible way.
Last but not least, we are joined yet again by our good dear friend Anthony from Something Ghoulish. What's up, Anthony?
What's going on, boils and ghouls? I'm ready to get our Siemens in check and swab this deck.
Oh, shit.
Welcome to the shit show.
Let's do it.
Wow. Somebody's been
I was going to lead with one of us is a professional, guess who? But that just kind of went out the window.
Yeah.
We're gonna keyhole the shit out of this podcast.
I think we're having a negative effect on you, Anthony. We're dragging you down in the pit.
Fact.
I just have this horrible suspicion that nothing will happen on this episode except for semen jokes.
I think you mean jism.
Yeah, sure. If you just want to cut out the side talk, just make it straightforward. We're talking about jism today here on Straight Chillin' Podcast.
Yep. Get right
the
down
horror
to it.
that is jism.
Dickcast.
Starting off strong.
Before we get into it, let's tackle some housekeeping real quick. So we have a winner for our November poll pick.
Finally,
the theme for November. The theme for November was movies that Justin would hate. They were all Rob Zombie movies. The winner finally came down. It's 31. That's what we're talking about.
It is 31. Oh, you broke my streak. Who picked 31? Bob did, right?
No, I picked Halloween 2.
I guess I did. I don't remember. At this point, they're all the same. They're all the same.
Yep.
Somebody broke my winning streak.
So yeah, if you support us on Patreon at the $5 level or above, you get the chance to vote on a movie we're talking about this December. We got a new month. That means we got a new poll pick. So the theme for December is going to be movies that we missed in 2019. There's so much stuff coming out. We can't cover it all. So this is sort of like our last ditch effort here to try and talk about some of these movies. So the movies you can vote on are Parasite, Ready or Not, and Daniel Isn't Real.
How those numbers looking, Bob?
I think Parasite's winning, but it's still pretty early, so I think most people haven't had a chance to vote yet. But Parasite's winning currently.
It is only the 4th.
Yep. Or it's might even still be October 28th. I'm not sure.
Maybe, Bob. You're just living in the past. That's all I know. You just can't accept the truth.
Yeah. I prefer to live 3 days before Halloween.
Forever. Mm-hmm. It's coming, guys. It's coming.
In other Patreon-related news, we have a new patron. We must.
Whoa!
We got to give a mad shout out to Justin M. and a big thanks for supporting us. We very much appreciate it.
There's only room for one Justin around here. Good thing my name is Soju, so
Good thing.
welcome, Justin.
Just starting and ending conflicts in like a real quick fashion. Fuck you. You're my best friend.
And of course, we owe you the straight chilling salute. This one's for you, Justin.
Slap my ass!
I do not.
Slap me in the ass.
Slap-
I do not possess that sound bite. So YouTube will not receive it.
It's okay.
It is definitely okay. Justin, YouTube and Twitch news. What you got?
Dude, we talking YouTube. What are we talking about on YouTube? Join us on YouTube. Subscribe. YouTube.com/straight chilling podcast. Up there, you will get this episode, behind the scenes, and regular style, whichever you prefer. Also, played through the Blair Witch Project, the game. You can get those streams up on YouTube as well if you're not watching them live on Twitch. Also, in just some other general news, we have something big coming up. We know all of you are lamenting the end of October, end of Halloween season, but the Straight Chillin' crew, we got you. Starting in December, we're going to have a new thing that we're doing in Straight Chilling, and we're kind of teasing it a little bit, but it's going to be interactive, which means that the listeners will be able to join in, participate, and it's something that's going to play a big part here on the cast and everything like that, and big chunk of time. So in order to participate, it's going to be really helpful for you to join any of our socials. So Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, stuff like that. It's really going to help you participate in this activity that we have coming up. We're going to talk more about it in upcoming episodes. But if you haven't subscribed, if you are not following, go ahead and do that. We're getting you ready for December. I think it's going to be a really fun time. So if you'd like to interact more with the show, participate more with us, we have something big coming. Definitely check out all of our socials and look for that coming up.
Yeah.
Teaser trailer.
I know. Cock tease stains over here.
Yeah.
You
Well,
big
it's only
flat.
November. We just got to, we got a few weeks to go. So
Yeah.
We got a few weeks to bail out entirely.
what are you guys talking about? I didn't say we're doing anything.
Thanks for the follow.
You guys are crazy. 'Cause, yeah, it's all just big scam to get fucking followers. We can hire people for that.
We actually do have a thing that we're doing, and it's going to be a lot of fun, and it's definitely the more the merrier. So follow us for sure. Anything else? You guys got anything else?
Never.
I don't think so.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get into what we've been watching this week.
Hey gang, what you been watching?
Hey, Randy, what you been watching?
To be honest, I have not done a lot of watching this week. Spooky season, a friend coming to town, and just kind of an influx of work resulted in me doing very little watching of anything. Did a lot of drinking with my friend who came into town. Tried Malort for the first time.
Oh, it's
tastes
terrible.
like cologne.
Yeah.
It's so bad.
Tastes like
Do you have any Red Stag, Randy?
I did not, and that is not in store for me for some time.
Dude,
don't
that
need to-
episode is infamous now. Oh,
I mean, it earned me a new nickname, and even they're a dime a dozen, but still.
Stag Randy.
So yeah, Malort tastes like cologne. I discovered, and it also causes people to go insane, myself included.
Yeah.
So
Damn.
did that, and then the only thing I've been watching really has been YouTube, and primarily just been shotgunning through. I don't know if you guys are familiar with Todd in the Shadows, the music critic. But he,
I've seen some of his stuff.
yeah, I mean, I'm pretty new. I didn't know about him before a few weeks ago, and I've just been watching his One Hit Wonderland series where he talks about one hit wonders and where their careers started and ended up and things like that. And it's pretty interesting shit. So just kind of shotgun through that while I work, and that's about the most entertainment as I could squeeze in between drinks. So
Sweet.
yeah.
Juice, what you been watching?
Now that spooky season is done, I'm kind of like coming down a little bit, detoxing, scotch from the spooky. So I've been going through the newest season of Big Mouth. That show like genuinely cracks me up. Like I find it like very hilarious. So I've been enjoying that, and also in preparation for this episode, I was watching some interviews with Robert Eggers, and I never really watched interviews or heard him talk or whatever. And so after seeing this film, I was just really curious about this guy because I've said before, like I love The Beach, and then this this movie came out, and Beach. But really curious guy. I was just seeing like just kind of his methods and what he thinks about like filmmaking and stuff like that. So might be able to bring a little bit of that. Yeah, this is all bullshit, man. I'm tricking your asses.
Send me your money.
Follow me on Twitter and Instagram. We got something big.
That's what this has all been for, baby. Influencer time for old Egger.
Influencer time. So yeah, I might be able to shed some light, maybe. Probably not. Anthony's probably still gonna school me. So yeah, that's about all I've been watching.
Really setting them up over here.
Yeah,
just set the bar.
You better have been working your arm out, buddy, because you got to hit this one out of the park.
Cool. Anthony, what you been watching?
Besides the Straight Chilling YouTube channel that I definitely subscribe to.
Red Stag Randy.
That's what it's all about.
Let's get it trending, guys. Let's go viral. We need that viral package.
That's what I need.
I think Rob
Red Stag Randy.
I think Rob went viral in '93. I heard something about that. But
chlamydia around?
Yeah, something like it.
Holy shit!
I've been watching the newest season of Castle Rock, and I have been absolutely loving it so much. The first season of Castle Rock is solid. I really enjoy it. But this season is just absolutely perfect. Have you guys watched the series at all yet?
I haven't, but I've seen that did they add Lizzie Kaplan this season, or was she just?
Yeah, she plays Annie Wilkes this season.
Right.
Yeah, and she is just electric. Like she is just so entertaining to watch because she's just plays crazy so well. Yeah, so I highly recommend the newest season of Castle Rock. That comes out on Hulu every Wednesday. I watched The Shining last night for the 1 billionth time. What else have I been watching? I've been kind of going through some classic Cinemassacre stuff.
Nice.
Just seeing all the stuff he did throughout Halloween. I'm trying to think. I watched Trick or Treat on Halloween.
Holla.
And of course, I saw Parasite. I thoroughly enjoyed that. Of course, this film. And then hopefully tomorrow I will be seeing Dr. Sleep.
Ooh, there you go. I got a sweet Korean poster for that hanging on the old wall.
Ooh. Hey, Rob.
It's the yellow one right there, YouTube exclusive.
Hey, Anthony.
Hey, Rob. What have you been watching?
Allow me to tell you.
Rob, did you get a stack? Have you been watching a stack of DVDs?
Well, I did.
I had to hold them back.
I did purchase some things. So yeah, so Spooky Empire was this past weekend, and I was hanging out there with good Sir Anthony among some other folks, and we made a pilgrimage over to Grindhouse Video, which they pretty much exclusively sell the shit that I talk about at the end of every episode, like all these boutique Blu Ray imprints, so like Arrow Video.
I think you mispronounced bougie.
Bougie Blu Rays. They got all that stuff. But yeah, Mike from Grindhouse was also set up at the convention, and he had a table there, so we actually got to meet him for a minute or two, and then we drove over to his shop after that as well, and it is definitely a sight to behold. If you happen to be in the Tampa area, I highly recommend stopping by. They have an amazing collection, and the prices are fair. If you're not in the area, though, they have a pretty solid online store as well.
Only $40, right, Rob?
Yeah. They have a solid online store as well, though. So
how much are their jet skis?
Remains to be seen. I don't know. He didn't take me out the back for the jet ski lot. But yeah, so shout out to Mike at Grindhouse Video. That show was awesome. I bought some stuff. We'll talk about that a little bit later. As far as what I've actually been watching, The Nightingale, which is Jennifer Kent's latest movie, just dropped on Hulu. You might recall her from The Babadook. Was her first feature-length film.
Nice.
This movie right here is some serious shit. So it's like...
Really?
Yeah, it's set in Tasmania in 1825. And,
I wanted to see this movie real bad.
It's worth checking out. So you're following our protagonist is a young Irish woman, and she's a convict, and she's sort of she's been busted for, I think, theft. They don't really get into it too much, but she's sort of at the service of this British officer, and she has to like sort of pay her dues by basically just sort of doing whatever he asks her to do. She's also has like a beautiful singing voice, so she'll like entertain his troops on occasion by singing to them. But she cooks, she cleans, she does whatever. And we kind of come into the story at a certain point where she has been sort of serving him for years, and like her debt is paid, but he refuses to let her go. And she is married, and her husband obviously is not okay with this. So this like horrific incident occurs. And then from then on, it's sort of like a revenge tale. I mean, but it's a little over 2 hours long, and it's incredibly well crafted. The performances from the actors are like phenomenal. It's I don't know that I would say it's really a horror movie. It's got like a handful of scenes that are very much like rooted in real life horror, like horrific things that real humans do and have done. But this does not have some sort of like mythical creature like the Babadook did. So don't expect that. This is more of like a historical fiction, I guess you could say. But unfortunately, it's not like fictitious enough, which is really like where the horror fucking comes from. People are terrible. So when you watch this, expect it to be heavy because it is. But it's definitely worth your time. Like, absolutely worth your time. So
you got me intrigued, Bob.
Yeah, Jennifer Kent, The Nightingale. It's on Hulu currently. I don't know if you can get it anywhere else. I think it's just on Hulu, as far as I'm aware.
Straight Chillin' Crew, sponsored by Hulu and The Nightingale.
Right. Jennifer Kent wrote me a check to say that, actually. No, and also the only other thing I want to talk about, I watched a Vinegar Syndrome release. It's called Unmasked 25. It's like I think it's a mid-'80s. I'd have to double check. I'm not sure. I think it's a mid-'80s sort of slasher parody they put out. It was one of their October releases. The first 15 or 20 minutes of it follows pretty much just like you would expect a slasher movie to do. You've got this guy who's got a hockey mask that's very reminiscent of what Jason Voorhees would wear. He goes through, he's killing all these English early 20-something people who are just having a party. He's slaughtering them all. Then he comes across this one girl who is blind, and she's unable to tell that he's a monster because she can't see him. So he takes his mask off and like starts having this conversation to her, and then they just like fall in love, and it becomes just a love story. And it becomes pretty much unrecognizable as a slasher movie. And it's also like the most British fucking movie I've ever seen.
Fucking Brits.
You've got this like this slasher.
We love you.
We do, yeah.
God.
We do.
Sign up for our Patreon.
The pendulum of Justin's mood towards everyone is insane.
But yeah, so you've got this like slasher character who like starts reciting Byron like from memory, and it's just like, it's terribly British. I don't know that I would really recommend it, but it's definitely it's an oddity. Never seen anything like it before.
I think you meant wonderfully British, Rob. I think that's what
it is. Wonderfully British. You are correct. Yeah, I don't know. It's bizarre. I don't know. I just had to talk about it. I don't know that I really recommend it, but it's worthy of discussion for sure.
That sounds very particular.
It is for sure. Anyway, that's all I got to talk about as far as what I've been watching. Let's go and get into the main event. We're talking about The Lighthouse. We're kicking it off with the back of the box. Here we go.
What's on the back of the box?
Finally, we get to talk about The Lighthouse.
We're doing it.
Bob going on and
been
on
some
about
hype
his
in the straight chillin' world.
Oh, come on. Come on. All right. So this is the latest and greatest from director Robert Eggers, who previously directed The Witch. The Lighthouse, starring Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson, and that is it. The plot synopsis is as follows: The
No,
hypnotic
that's not it, Bob.
is as
There's a hot young lady in here.
follows. Yeah, that's true. Whatever, we'll get to it. The hypnotic and hallucinatory tale of two lighthouse keepers on a remote and mysterious New England island in the 1890s. That's pretty vague, but I guess it does it. Gentlemen, obviously this is a new movie. None of us had seen this previously. Randy, would you recommend people check it out in the movie theater?
I would. This movie is very much a visual experience. I would say above just about anything else about it. It's very visual, and I think seeing it on the big screen was well worth it. That aside, I would say that it's a pretty fucking bananas movie that is worthy of a watch from people who have the stomach to be a little baffled for a while.
True.
Yeah.
Amongst other things. So yeah, I'd recommend it.
Cool. Justin?
I would recommend, God, I wish I could see it in the theater. Eventually, maybe I can, but, it is a spectacle. And, not only that, it's just like a really well, like crafted film. So if you just enjoy film for film's sake, definitely check this out in the theater. It is like a wild movie. It's not like a popcorn movie by any means. So if you're just going for sheer entertainment value, you might be disappointed, but I think it's a really interesting and phenomenal film and should be a fun watch in the theater.
Cool. Anthony, what about you?
Would I recommend people going to see this in the theater?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yes. Boy, he's so excited. He can't wait for it. He can't wait for
Let's not waste time on that question.
Continue. All right. Yeah, I'd recommend as well. It's a gorgeous movie. It's something that I think would definitely warrant repeat viewings. So try and catch it at least once in the theater while it's still there. Especially if you have seen The Witch and you like it, watch this for sure. All right. That's enough jawing on. Let's actually talk about this movie. I'm dropping the spoiler warning. Let's go.
Spoiler warning.
So unfortunately, my version didn't have any color to it. I don't know.
Dude.
My stream, it just cut all the color out.
You
so,
know what's weird
yeah.
is my theater, it just didn't use the whole screen for some reason. I don't know. It must have had something blocking it.
Bizarre. Truly bizarre.
So this movie is black and white.
It is.
It's wonderful.
I want to start with kind of a little perspective. So the fact that I can tell my friends that we're going to go see a black and white movie that is loaded with homoerotic tones and it also has like just tons of different weird imagery in it of squids and sirens and all these crazy things. And they're just immediately saying, yeah, let's do that. Like anyone who's saying film is dead, like
That's true.
I don't know.
You got
They
some
need to take
good
a step back.
friends.
You had me at homoerotic.
Like the fact that I can,
Add us all reels.
go to a multiplex theater and see a film that we saw is just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, I'm glad it got a wider release for everybody because at first we were like concerned about covering this movie and like the availability of it, but then like everybody was saying like, "Oh no, it got a wider release." So I was like relieved and also like encouraged. Like I'm glad, like Anthony was saying, like you can just go down to the movieplex and watch it. That's really awesome because this film is, like you said, like this film is just well crafted, and this guy, this director, like listening to him talk about things, it's just he seems to like be in love with the idea of like filmmaking, and he does it from this. He does these like period pieces, I guess, these history, and he's like so like obsessed with making them like accurate in like the way like structures and talking and all that stuff. So he really puts his work in, and just from that standpoint, like it's like I wish all the success for him, because if you're willing to like put in that work, and like they went to like this island to film, and he was talking about, he's like, all the swells and the weather and shit was like real. Like he'd be like, at one point you couldn't talk to somebody that was like 3 feet away from you because the swells were so high and like the wind. So like even like location based and everything, he just like really puts his work in, and I wish the guy like all the success in the world, because the work he does is really impressive.
The rarest gem of all, goodwill from juice stains.
Fuck that guy, man. He's a real piece of shit.
He's full of shit.
Yeah, the atmosphere that Robert Eggers curates is absolutely phenomenal. Like right when the film started, I was immediately hooked, and I think I was engaged 100% all the way through. Not even like thinking, when is this going to be over, or like how much time is left, just kind of like, what the fuck is going to happen next? And then, there comes the time where the credits roll and you're sitting in darkness just for those few seconds before the lights go up. And then you look at your friends around you and you're like, did we just watch the same thing? What happened? And then everyone leaves the theater, and then you're just kind of trying to collect your thoughts. It's like one of the best feelings in the entire world.
Yeah, there were like 13 people in my theater, and they all walked out looking like they had seen war. They had a 1,000-yard gaze on them, and well earned.
Like Willem Dafoe shooting light out of his eyes.
Yeah, as you do.
Yeah.
The
story of this movie is you've got Batman and the Green Goblin, and they're locked in a lighthouse together, and they just duke it out.
They're measuring dicks the whole time. And then Willem Dafoe starts farting. It's crazy.
Willem Dafoe farts this whole movie. It's great.
Robert, God, what's that dude's? Robert Pattinson?
Yeah.
Oh, Pattinson.
Robert.
No, yeah. Sorry.
Too many Roberts.
I know he's
Robbie.
like the new Batman. He killed it in this movie. I mean, he's been like, I never watched the Twilight movies. I know he like, that's like kind of his infamous thing, but he killed it in this movie. And of course the directing is fantastic, and like the sets around it or whatever. And he's opposite like Willem Dafoe, and like the dialogue is amazingly like written and everything. So he's got a lot of stuff going for him, but I thought like that he killed it. Of course, Willem Dafoe kills it. The acting in this is phenomenal, and it's built off of this like pretty interesting script with like really great dialogue. But I mean, they have to do these like salty seaman like accents, or like like speaking of the time and everything like that. But it's and sometimes it is hard to understand what they're saying.
It's very hard to understand. More than one person, as
Especially,
I
like,
walked out of the
Willem
theater, was like, I kind of wish that had subtitles.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I remember we watched the Veach for like the 5th time one day, and it just happened to have subtitles, and I was like, oh my God, I didn't realize they were actually saying some of this shit. So I feel like this movie is going to be like in a similar vein, where it's like, oh, subtitles are really going to add some light. But I appreciate, even like if I can't, I appreciate the texture of it. Like the like, even like it doesn't detract from me when I'm like, I can't exactly understand every word that's being said. Because like it's, you understand like the gist of what's happening, and the texture of like the authenticity is like adding to everything else around it. It's like a stew, it's
that's
like
what this movie does. Like Eggers, as far as I can concern, this kind of proves that he has a specialty that he can rely on if he ever wants to, which is taking anachronistic stories and myths and legends and interweaving them and presenting them in a film in such a way that's so goddamn engaging, and takes the sources so seriously as to make things that were once hokey scary again. Mm-hmm. And I think that's fucking great. Like that's, to me, that's it's like a back to basics sort of a horror movie, while also breaking a lot of molds that you didn't really ever recognize were there, or I didn't. So
his movies are like folk tales, like come to life, but in a, like you said, it's taken seriously, and not only it's taken seriously, it's presented in a well crafted film. Like I appreciate like all the aspects of everything that he brings, because it's like, if you took one of those things, they'd be like, oh, okay, making like kind of modern day like folk tales, like kind of, it's like, okay, that by itself. But then also like just the authenticity of the time and just bringing in these amazing actors and like the dialogue. Like he just like stacks the deck, man. Like honestly, and it's just so damn impressive. And like I just want to heap praise onto this guy because I appreciate all of those things. Like, you know, like I love to watch, you know, like Inglourious Bastards over and over because I like am just so fixated by this dialogue. But of course, you know, the timepieces are, you know, nobody's like talking quite appropriate. I don't know. It's just like, it feels like he just lines up everything, and I'm just like constantly impressed by everything that I'm presented. I can take a step back and be like, this set looks amazing, or just like the choice of black and white. And then I can also say like, oh my God, like I watch so many damn horror films, and I am just so appreciative to have this tale that is presenting me like mermaids. Like it was a joke in like Cabin Fever or whatever, where they're like betting on Cabin in the Woods, yeah, where they're betting on like what monsters getting like mermaid and just like these like sea.
It's hyper sincere as opposed to hypertextual. Like it's instead of being the self-aware horror movies that we've been getting since Scream came out, pretty much. Like that was kind of the marker of a good horror movie for a while. Like that it was taking stock of what exists and then playing with those elements. In this movie and in The Witch as well, they take stock of historical elements of horror tales. And they use those, and they take them very seriously. It's not about the metatextual nature of it, really, but you can take it in a mini way. You can like interweave whatever sort of philosophy you want into it to a certain degree.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think it's really great. Let's like story wise. Here's the beats of the story. We need to get to the beats. It's kind of
hard. Yeah, the story's weird, but yeah,
it is. But I think we can pretty concisely sum it up in okay. So Robert Pattinson is the younger man of the two, with Willem Dafoe. I forget what his name was at the beginning. Winslow, thank you. Winslow and Wake, the older man, Willem Dafoe. And they're manning this lighthouse for 6 weeks on a barren rock, basically. That's
he comes in, he's got a short-term contract to work as a wiki for 4 weeks, actually. He's only supposed to be there for a month.
Yeah, it's 4 weeks.
Starts as 4. Okay, well, it starts at 4, and long story short, like they start to get on each other's nerves right away. They're in a tiny little decrepit shack. Wake is a slave driver who refuses to let Pattinson do his job by the book, which would mean, you know, splitting duties fairly, and that doesn't really happen. But he kind of takes it on the chin for a while, and then he refuses to drink, and then slowly but surely, they get to their last day of their 4 weeks. And a huge goddamn storm hits. And Winslow starts drinking. And Wake has been drinking and farting and being a pain in the ass for the whole time. And there's this like existential dread because Wake knows of at least one guy who was trapped in a lighthouse just the same for 7 months and went insane. So there's a lot of.
They say that the reason that Winslow is there to take on the job is because the guy who had his job before went insane.
Yeah, the guy just before him in that position went insane. But that's by the mouth of Wake, and like that's like there's a lot of like untrustworthiness between these two characters, especially as we go along and sort of find out more about them. But so yeah, we spend more time than we thought with them. They start drinking like crazy. The only thing, they're not even eating anymore at a certain point. They're just
They run out of rations.
They run out of rations.
Storm.
Or like their rations are just liquor. Like they dig up rations that are just liquor.
Yeah, they're like, oh, let's go dig up the more rations, and it's just booze.
Yeah, it's just booze. So they're losing their shit, going crazy on this stuff. And Wake is up in the lighthouse tending to that, doing whatever he does. We never really get to see what he does up there. In the actual lighthouse, except that he may or may not be nudely staring into the light with his cock and balls hanging out and shit. And Pattinson's just bringing coal back and forth and cleaning shit and being told he's doing subpar work all the time and all this shit. And then as time goes on, the drinking gets worse and worse. They're not really keeping up with anything. They're just like hunkering down in the storm as much as they can and drinking too much so that they can be friendly to each other and like, I guess just pass the time, while the time away, to the point where they start drinking lamp oil like straight
Oh, kerosene. Yeah.
Kerosene,
Was it
they're
kerosene?
mixing-
They're mixing a cocktail at first, but then they just give up on that altogether. It goes into like straight up Joaquin Phoenix and the Master territory.
What a
just
nightmare.
straight chemicals.
That's terrible.
I know. And then as time goes on, things sour between the two gentlemen. Winslow reveals that he is not named Winslow, but is also named Thomas. That's their first names they discover. Both of them.
Same name, yeah.
Same first name. And then you find out that Robert Pattinson's character of Thomas had watched a man named Winslow fall and die while logging in the Northwest somewhere.
Yeah.
And had basically stolen his identity right after that. And he felt regret about it because he could have like saved him, or otherwise he kind of wished he would die. Just out of like the grueling nature of his job. That's how he mentally was coping with it, was just wishing this dude ill. And he was basically a stand-in for Wake in his previous job. And he watched this stand-in for Wake die, steals his identity, and is now like tramping around taking odd jobs basically. And meanwhile, you find out Wake has never served time on a boat, despite being basically whatever Tintin's what's that dude's name? Captain Haddock from Tintin, being like the prototypical salty seaman character.
Yeah. Even to the point of being called, a stereotype.
He was called a parody outright. He's like, "Do you hear yourself?"
They call it out. That's pretty funny. And just the way that he talks and everything. And
there's a lot of back and
question. I love that he laid it on so thick and then called himself out in his own movie. Like, you sound like a parody of what, and how that even plays into the movie is pretty brilliant.
Yeah. So all that.
Yeah. Then they turn on each other.
Yeah.
At one point. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say one important thing that I glossed is at one point early on, Robert Pattinson's character Winslow is being harassed by a one-eyed seagull, and Willem Dafoe tells him, "Don't quarrel with the seabird. It's bad luck to kill a seabird." And then, of course,
slaps
he
the
does.
Fuck out of him.
Yeah, and then he grabs. Yeah, he does. And then Robert Pattinson takes out all of his frustration on this fucking seagull by grabbing it by the neck and whipping it around like a fucking a
beats
dog
it to fucking death. Yeah,
it was gnarly. That was a pretty effective scene. So yeah, and then you see a shot of the winds changing right after that. So the implication being, okay, maybe their curse is real, maybe it's in their heads, whatever it is, that did happen, and that's kind of a central question for a while.
And there's also he finds this when he first gets his job and is settling down. He finds this carving of a mermaid.
Yeah, right away.
That he takes and puts it, and it's
I immediately knew what that shit was for.
And then that it starts to play more and more. The first thing is there's a siren's call, and he starts to see a mermaid on the beach, and then he starts fucking it at one point. He sees it again later, and then that kind of plays into Wake's character later on, because they have confrontations. One, they start to lose their shit, and Winslow is gonna he's had enough, and he's gonna take the rescue boat, and he's out, and fucking Willem Dafoe just cuts that shit down
with an axe. He comes out and says, "Don't leave me," and then chops the
don't leave me. And then there's this awesome scene of Willem Dafoe chasing him back to the lighthouse with an axe, but then you get back in there and he's Willem Dafoe switches it. So he's why are you chasing me with an axe or whatever?
Like a madman.
And so this whole movie does this mindfuck thing where you already don't feel like the character of Winslow, who you follow, is a reliable narrator, because he's seeing a mermaid and he's seeing these things. And also at times, Willem Dafoe is being a real hard ass, but then sometimes you think it's justified. You think well, maybe this dude is crazy, or maybe he is doing a shitty job, or he himself thinks he's a good worker, but he's carrying the story. So when you see these other things, you're okay, well, maybe Willem Dafoe is
how much perspective are we seeing from this guy?
Right.
How much of it is legitimate?
So through the whole movie, you don't know which narrator is reliable, or if any of them are.
I maybe we can kind of examine some of these themes. I was able to extrapolate a few different things. And I also picked some things up, from some other people I had been talking to. So I'll lay them out on the table and maybe you guys can pick what you want to examine. How does that sound?
Sounds
Yes.
good.
Okay. So we have Marxism,
Okay.
generational dissonance, death of the self, and the Prometheus allegory.
Oh man, that's a lot. The Prometheus allegory, I have just from having read up a little bit, I do know just the barest relationship there.
Marxism.
Maybe we could start with that. Okay, never mind.
Rock picks Marxism. I think obviously the generational gap is the easiest one to kind of pick apart.
Okay.
That's okay.
We don't have to. I don't know if maybe that's the one we should avoid because it's the most obvious.
No, we'll just
we can
work
talk
through it,
about
man.
it
Let's
real
just talk it
quick.
through.
Yeah.
So some of the readings I've seen when it comes to the generational dissonance is very much akin to the millennial generation and the baby boomer generation. Where, a lot of people within the millennial generation have accumulated all this debt and have taken on all this work and have taken on maybe a lot more work than people previously thought that generation has, right? And then you have Robert Pattinson kind of embodying that. And then Willem Dafoe's character embodying kind of the older generation or boomer generation. Pretty much saying Robert Pattinson's breaking his dick when it comes to maintaining the lighthouse while
Getting no respect for it.
Yeah, and Willem Dafoe is pretty much getting just pure euphoria out of doing nothing, and then has the gall to continue pushing down Robert Pattinson. So I think that's an interesting read.
For sure, yeah. You could definitely pull that out. And additionally, the idea of Wake being this, he's an older man who's been on the job for so long, and that's all assumed. It's assumed that he's seen it all, he's done it all, he's been in that business for a long time.
He's probably set in his ways.
But then later on, you find out that some of that, or at least you're told that some of that, based on the secret logbook, is not actually accurate, and he has maybe only ever done that job, which doesn't disqualify him, but it does make him kind of full of shit. And that's kind of the last straw for Robert Pattinson's character kind of putting up with it. And yeah.
And it's not only, I think another aspect if we're comparing it to the current generation, stuff like that, it's not only that aspect of it, but almost immediately Robert Pattinson Winslow, he tries to do a good job, and throughout he's constantly saying like they talk about their motivations for life and things like that. And his whole point is I really just want to make a living. I'm not trying to be a rich man. I'm trying to save up. So I found these jobs that I could do. I know they're hard work, but I can make money. And even if I'm in isolation, I'd prefer the money now because I want to just save up the money and just kind of go find my own piece of land. He just wants to have his own thing, area. He just wants to save and buy a house or something.
Right. And it's very much the classical American dream aspect. And I think some of the
get your piece.
Yeah. And I think some of those things start going into the Marxism territory too.
True.
Yeah. But the thing is, with immediately Willem Dafoe, he is whether he's been living this life or not, he kind of lives the relaxed life and manipulates Pattinson to do the same. So he chastises them for not drinking, and Robert Pattinson even comes back and says well, no, the handbook says you shouldn't drink on the job, or you shouldn't do this. And he's oh, and he literally gives him an order at one point, to drink, you have to listen to me. I'm in charge. And I'm telling you to drink. So he's got this whole macho attitude where it's oh, you can work hard and play by your own rules kind of thing. So he manipulates them into doing a bad job or to breaking the rules. And then criticizes that. Like, oh, like you can't handle your liquor like me, like you're a lazy son of a bitch, or like, you know, like you're sleeping in late and shit like that. It's like, motherfucker, like you put this burden on me. Like,
you're perpetuating the conditions, especially since like Pattinson hadn't wanted to drink in the first place. He was incredibly hesitant. But yeah, and I think like, you know, something that I mentioned earlier, like that kind of starts going into like the Marxist ideals of, you know, suppressing the working class while, you know, it just cuts off more on top for owners or management or the people perpetuating business.
And that's definitely true. Like the relative comfort of not just age, but also status. Like that, those are the two things that buy Willem Dafoe's character his comparative peace throughout their stay there. And Robert Pattinson's just working, and he owns none of it. He's just there for a short time. He's not even guaranteeing. He's not even really interested, maybe, in sticking around after his contract's up. He's just, you know, he's told that if you work hard and carry on, you'll get your piece. And as soon as he's done telling that to Willem Dafoe, I can't remember exactly what he says, but he basically says like, same old fucking story. And then as if it's like, yeah, so everybody says that shit. It's like, I don't know. It's like just deriding him for believing such a thing, which it's a damn good thing he does believe that, because you're benefiting from it, motherfuckers.
Right. And then eventually, you know, Willem Dafoe's character has the gall to subtract his pay for kind of creating the conditions of Robert Pattinson's character of, oh, you know, drinking on the job, severance without pay, and all these crazy things.
They really make Dafoe like a loathsome motherfucker in this movie.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Pattinson's not much better, but like as this like central, like the protagonist, I would say, out of the two, like he's the one that you at least understand. Like his motivation is, at least on its surface, somewhat pure. He's got some skeletons in his closet, but I believe him when he says, I just want to work and finish this contract. And that's why he doesn't put up a fuss whenever Dafoe gives him shit, or whenever, you know, he's dealing with fucking seabirds or whatever. Like he just kind of grits and bears it. He's told that's what's going to get him through.
In the fucking face. I love like he like bows up like he's like about to like, because the thing is like Willem Dafoe's this old crusty fucking man. And obviously like Robert Pattinson's like this
old
young,
crusty.
like
he could beat the hell out.
Like, and obviously like later does.
Yeah.
But I love there's a couple of times in this movie where people just go off on rants, and they're like fucking amazing.
Oh,
rants.
the monologues are phenomenal. I absolutely love them.
There's this one where Rob Pattinson like goes off on fucking Willem Dafoe, like, you lying, like just this whole rant of like just totally like debasing this guy, like you son of a, like just tearing him down. And at the very end, Willem Dafoe says, you got away with words, like son or something.
And then he turns it down on him, and he has a great monologue immediately after that.
Exactly, yeah.
Like,
so it's just,
you know, you think you're put upon, but you really are just a worthless piece of shit who doesn't want to do his work and wants to complain about the work he does.
Yeah, both silver spoon and like what you deserve. And it's like you have these times where like, okay, there's this like tension between the two, and they might say snide remarks, but then they each like have a chance to like unleash their own like thesis, like their own like burden, and like how they see each other. And it's laid out in a way that you can kind of like understand both. Like even like Wake is like a crusty old piece of shit, but sometimes he says things, but because they make Robert Pattinson like an unreliable narrator, sometimes you think that that's possible. Like
definitely do.
Because at one point he's like fucking a mermaid, and so you're like, well, I'm
watching this happen.
Fucking a mermaid, and even if he was like, I mean, so. If you think of it from the perspective of like Wake, and like, okay, I got this fucking like young guy who's coming around and like, I don't know what he's doing all day. So like this movie warrants just a lot of discussion, because there's no solid answer for a lot of it.
Sure. Do you guys want to jump into the like Prometheus element?
Let's do
because
it.
I really want to take the time to kind of understand like maybe the full spectrum of what this movie presents. Like obviously it's going to be impossible, but I think, you know, maybe we have some solid ideas between the four of us.
Do it. Go for
Are
it.
you guys familiar with the story of Prometheus?
Yeah, with the light.
Spill it. I know, but you should tell
Okay.
our listeners.
Yeah,
Spill
that
it,
they
girl.
know.
Spill it.
So Prometheus was a Greek titan. He was the titan of knowledge. And basically he had stolen fire, like a tool of the gods, and brought it down to man, which was a big no-no. Prometheus did not have permission. And so the gods found out, and he was then later punished by being chained to a rock. And since Prometheus was a titan, he could basically heal slowly. So he was eternally chained to a rock and being eaten alive by like vultures, I believe.
Yeah, and he would just heal himself at night, and then the next day he would just get eaten again.
Right, exactly. So like I really like the idea of you know, Willem Dafoe's character has the monologue that we were talking about earlier, about kind of him embodying Neptune and sending down Neptune's wrath. And there's even a shot at some point in the film where you know, we see Willem Dafoe with all this coral like crown growing on him.
Yeah.
So we get a lot of imagery in that aspect. And then him being kind of the keeper of this light. And so Robert Pattinson finally obtains this light, but maybe it's too much for him, or he's just not strong enough to wield
He's
it.
punished, yeah.
And he falls from the height of the lighthouse,
Oh my God.
falls from grace. And basically the final shot of him is kind of in this almost like deific pose on this rock as the seagulls are eating out his organs.
Mm-hmm. And he has one eye.
And his eye has been
eyes,
eaten out, yeah.
Which
Right.
And I
brings back
think that was
that
as far
that
as the seagull thing, one thing I know we got like jump in between like a couple things, but the seagull, the reason you're not supposed to kill the seagulls, he says, is because they carry the souls of like sailors
who
or
lost their lives at sea.
Yeah, sailors who died at sea, and so like they're now embodying these birds. So so the idea too, like that we have the seagull and he's got one eye, so he's like distinctive. He's killed by Robert Pattinson. Robert Pattinson, in the end, is being eaten alive by seagulls that have, and he himself has one eye, and like the transfer of the soul and things like that is just kind of its own aspect.
Yeah, it's almost literally like an eye for an eye. Like, you know, you killed one of my sea mates earlier by smashing his head against this fucking rock. We're going to eat your fucking organs out.
Yep.
Yeah. Well, and even I was confused, and maybe you guys can shed some light on this. I was not only even thinking about that, but they talk a little bit too about like time and isolation, because there's this thing like how long have we been here and like and things like that. There's one point before Willem Dafoe becomes Neptune, he's like young. He becomes like young, like a young man or whatever. You guys remember that? Where he flashed, he's got like golden hair.
I think he's supposed to be embodying the sea mate. He's prior.
Winslow. He's envisioning Winslow.
Okay,
moment,
I gotcha.
think.
Because at one point too, there was like this transfer of just like I was thinking of like the idea of they're all like Robert Pattinson and like Wake as an older version,
right?
Like, and then the bird as like oh, you die at sea,
postmortem,
right? Like, so this whole like layering of like existences
and identity,
and identity, because he talks about even like being in isolation and like how the one guy was on the thing for like 7 months and like not knowing what time is and like and even talking about like stealing an identity so he is not himself. And so just like these layers of like potential existences for a man who's already, like we know, is not stable. He's seeing things. He's not reliable narrator.
Right.
And so I thought like, so that when he had no eye at the end, like it kind of like matched for me, like this existence of like this continual existence, I guess, that he was actually the bird potentially.
I think that kind of goes into the idea of death of the self. So this was my own original read after leaving the film. And so basically what I had come to the conclusion of was Robert Pattinson being, instead of being Winslow, he was actually Thomas, and Willem Dafoe being Thomas. My read was that they were the same person.
Yeah.
And
that's what I was.
The idea that Robert Pattinson was so guilt stricken that he would rather create another identity to pretty much call him out on his own bullshit than deal with his trauma and maybe the choices and that he had made previously. And I think we kind of see this transition where Willem Dafoe, there's some line that Robert Pattinson makes to Willem Dafoe at some point, basically saying, I can really only stand you when you're drunk. And I think that's also indicative of that, of Robert Pattinson only being able to deal with his past, his trauma, and his self when he's just fucking plastered, because that way he doesn't have to think about all the things he's done before. And so I think as you kind of go along, he ends up giving himself over to pure euphoria without guilt, and just deciding to let everything go. But his fate has it, like, that's not the path for him. And he has to still pay for those decisions to be made, that resulting in his death.
Well, yeah, and you can even, if you take it from that, because even he's not a sailor by trade. He says he comes from like the timber industry. And so even the comment of like you when he calls out Wake and says like, you are a parody, like you, like the way you talk and the stories that you tell there, it's almost like this like parody of what people think sailors are, or, you know, like if you're going to make a caricature of it. And if you go from that line, it would be interesting because he kills. So we didn't talk about this, but they have a conflict and he kills Wake. So if that was like his conscious or like the thing keeping him alive, like keeping him going, like, okay, like you need to work hard to make up for this like life that you've killed. Like you've got to be a better person. Like that's his push. He kills it. And then he goes up to the lighthouse to see the light and he sees the euphoria. But the thing is he falls down in the lighthouse. But the last scene that we actually see of him is outside being eaten by the gulls. So really, if he just like went up to the lighthouse and threw himself, like committed suicide, like I'm giving like the conscious, like I've killed my conscience. It can't keep me alive anymore. Like I'm giving up to like the euphoria of like letting go of my guilt in the sense of suicide. And he throws himself in the lighthouse, and that might like support like that kind of idea or whatever. Cause he falls from the fucking top of the lighthouse, but he's in the lighthouse when we see him. But if he like actually throws himself from the lighthouse, then he would end up being eaten by gulls on the outside.
Well, I took that to be because of that transition to the outdoors. I took that to definitely be allegorical at the end. Like I took that to be whatever his afterlife is, his just desserts, you might call it, for what he's done or what he hasn't done. That's like Anthony was saying. But I don't know. I mean, you can read it a dozen ways, and that's kind of like, again, that's the strength of a good fucking well-structured story with a lot of moving parts, much like The Witch was. But this one is even more sort of, in my mind, more broad because the definitions of things aren't as clearly defined. So you don't necessarily, like, the way this is shot. I want to talk about the visual style of this for a second, because there's only two things I could think of that this reminded me of. The first is Tetsuo the Iron Man, of all things.
Okay.
Damn.
Because not just because of the harsh black and white, but also because the aspect ratio being as small as it was, like all of those things sort of add up. But more than that, it's like there's a lot of like almost incomprehensible things going on at certain points that you're really trying to make sense of. So that experience was similar, even though like the stories are very different, or at least the subject matter is so different. But it's like that's the only, like, visually the only parallel I could come to, except for the other one being, and this is very like out of nowhere to me, but I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of like in fucking Tusk, the scenes where you watch Howard Howe's memory of meeting Mr. Tuskegee, the way it's shot in black and white with like the and they're using the same techniques, really, because they're using a lot of the same techniques. Like they're pulling from like early photography techniques to get that aspect ratio. That's where that comes from. The harsh black and white, that comes from, how the gelatins used to be used on old film. Like the definition wasn't so easy to achieve. So and even some of the like the way they blow the wind early in this movie, for example, blow it in such a way that their clothes are whipping really fast, almost maybe sped up, which is what happens when you look at old black and white films and stuff. Things seem to be going in fast motion because, the actual frames per second don't necessarily match an actual second. I don't know the exact science of that, but it's basically kind of compressed, and it can't really, the way that the reel spins, it spins faster than reality than when it was recorded onto a reel. So like all these little things add up, but then you also get these like bizarre, like high concept, like shots of the mermaids. You see a mermaid pussy in this movie. It's crazy. And like, and you're just sitting there like, holy shit. Like this movie doesn't allow you to ground yourself more than a few seconds at a time.
Sure.
And you're kind of floating a foot off the ground from the jump. I thought like, at no point did I feel like any level of security in what was happening with our characters and or feeling like I could trust even the movie, which turns out to be kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy because Pattinson's character is unreliable and you
Dafoe
hate the shit out of Dafoe. He's very unreliable. Like from the jump, you don't rely on him. So, and they're the only two characters you really get to dig into, these two guys and their relationship, their similarities, their fucking names are the same, but and their work ethic on some level is theoretically the same, but there's a disparity. I don't know. I just the way those visuals feed into the concepts, I think is so strong and so striking.
Definitely. I was going to say more kind of on what you were talking about a little while ago, as for kind of like the, I guess, visual language of the film. I know Ari Aster and Robert Eggers are incredibly inspired by Ingmar Bergman. Yeah. When it comes just to their visual elements and storytelling.
Night of the Wolf, man. That's
Ingmar Bergman, like classically, he's done like The Seventh Seal. And if you kind of look at this and even going back to his older stuff, you can definitely see some visual relation there. I know Bergman typically deals with a lot of like topics of loneliness and like ethics and questions of when it comes to like believing in religion for and I definitely think you kind of have these questions in here embedded not only in the black and white, but questions and themes of like power dynamics. How does alcohol play into power dynamics? Surrounding these two characters in complete loneliness, and what are the consequences of those things? So there's definitely some crossover, but I definitely think the read of some like influence from Tetsuo the Iron Man is interesting.
I mean, it's been a while since I've watched that film, but the way that things sort of, they also in that movie are sped up quite a bit. And that's like the feeling of the aspect ratio is that of oppression. At least when I was watching in a theater, because I could see the parts of screen that weren't being used. It felt like this movie was being collapsed in on itself. So the isolation was just that much more pronounced.
Right. And then it's a 1/19 aspect ratio, right? I believe, which, I was going to talk on that too. Is like, it's perfect for just honing in on the characters so well.
It makes them feel, it makes the area that they're in, the area that you're watching, it's like looking through a porthole at a story rather than what we're used to, which is the whole vista. Right. So it makes it feel that much more oppressed or that much more isolated. Claustrophobic, exactly. Yeah. And I mean, it's just a brilliant choice because it achieves dual functionality where it's anachronistic in one way and it's thematically appropriate in the other. And that's where Eggers really like does his shit right, as he manages to have multiple reasons for doing pretty much everything, I feel like, in the movie. But
the visual language is absolutely gorgeous.
Yeah. And then like I was saying, the speed of things, like even once they're not really like, you get into more like cinematic or more more sophisticated shots than you would see in like old timey films. You get plenty of those for sure. But like they go at such a rapid pace. There's scenes that just bleed into each other. Like, you don't understand what the time is. How the hell, like, is Robert Pattinson keeping track of time? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
The way it's shot is just brilliant. Is the long and short of this.
Yeah, everything kind of morphs together, and I think that's one of the beautiful things of shooting this in black and white, or at least editing it in post in black and white. I don't know what this was filmed on.
I believe it was actually shot in black and white. They had like specific lenses actually crafted for them to shoot this movie. They didn't exist previously, so it was very much intended to be.
It was shot on
what it is.
Sorry, it was shot on double X stock black and white. It requires much more light exposure, so they had 15 to 20 times more light than usual.
And
that's why
you kind of get these almost strong expressionist styles out of it too, which I really love. Yeah. You're getting these really sharp angles and shapes on Willem Dafoe and Robert Pattinson's face when it comes to light. And, there are certain scenes where it's constantly morphing and changing. And your brain sometimes is almost playing catch up with like putting things together.
Which is perfectly appropriate going through the process of going insane. Like The Shining does going insane slowly. This movie does going insane at a fucking rapid click. You are not slowing down. You're running to insanity the whole time.
One thing I can say for sure is we can add a half star for the Yabos.
We can add the half star for the Yabos.
God.
The mermaid, she washes up. Bob doesn't even want to recognize her as being.
You gotta recognize.
Are you guys familiar at all with the like true story that somehow influenced this movie, or at least a little bit influenced this movie?
A little bit.
Heard about
Are you ruining Andy's trivia?
I mean, just talk about it.
Apparently, there's
just
a lot.
talk about it.
I don't know. I definitely wanted to mention this because I thought the story was like pretty interesting. So there's like a lighthouse called the Smalls Lighthouse that was erected in 1861. It was 20 miles west of the Marlow Peninsula in Pembrokeshire, Wales. So yeah, there are like two lighthouse keepers. Both were named Thomas. One was Thomas Howell, and the other was Thomas Griffith. They were stationed together in this lighthouse, and it wasn't like the lighthouse that we see in the movie. It was sort of like this little pod that was standing on stilts, and that was it. So it was all like very much self-contained and like elevated. I don't know, it was like 50 to 70 feet off the water. Griffith, I guess, like falls ill and eventually dies. So we got Thomas Howell, who is like stuck in this little pod floating above the sea with this corpse of a man who's like rotting. So obviously he raises the white flag, distress signal, trying to get people to stop. And nobody is able to get to him for quite some time. So he's sort of like met with this decision. Do I throw the corpse over into the water, or do I just like sit here and deal with it? Apparently the two of them were sort of known for fighting, both with words and also just like having physical altercations. He was worried that if he like disposed of the corpse that he actually might get accused of manslaughter.
Shit.
So he wanted to hold on to it because if you examine it, you can see there's no like physical markings on the body.
Shit. Ooh.
So what he decides to do is he fashions this coffin to put the corpse in. So he does that, puts the body in the coffin, and then he takes it outside. There's like a walkway with a railing circling the entire lighthouse, like every lighthouse you pretty much see a picture of. He puts the coffin out there and like ties it to the railing, but the wind apparently gets so strong that it blows the coffin apart. And the corpse remains on the pathway, the walkway, and I guess the ropes like wrap around him in such a way that it looks almost as if the corpse is peering into the lighthouse at him. And
oh my god! What a
story!
Stretch of luck! Holy fuck!
And the wind, as it continues to blow, occasionally would like catch his arm and make it look like he's waving. So this guy is totally alone with this corpse staring at him for, I think it was like 4 months he's isolated until somebody finally is able to get to him and get him out of there, get him to safety. But that's sort of like the horrors of that were like loosely woven into this. Obviously, the two of them both being named Thomas came from this story. I don't know, but some people actually tried to get to him sooner when they saw the flag, but they would approach the lighthouse and see that the light was still burning, and then they would see this figure of a man waving at them, and they'd be like, well, I guess everything is okay, and they turn around.
Oh my God.
Oh,
what a nightmare situation.
God.
That's a great fucking story.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's like almost like a fun like ghost story that you would tell like up in New England or some go camping on the beach.
That sounds
Grant
like
could tell me that story. I'd listen.
I was going to say that sounds like something out of like scary stories to tell in the dark,
Yeah.
Yeah, the adult
awesome.
version.
Yeah.
which is the
Well,
normal
I know
version.
it has a hint of like kidness and like, oh, the corpse would wave. Like it's
Yeah.
almost got this like. That's
There's a lot of
nuts,
fable
dude.
in that, but
Yeah.
like, yeah, that's great.
Holy shit.
So yeah, that's part of the story. Part of
So,
this.
yeah.
So you
Ooh,
guys,
this movie, it's just like there's a lot to unpack. I mean, like we'd go on and on.
I was gonna say it's silly to ask this question, but we got to rate this eventually. Anything else you guys want to mention real quick before we do rate it?
Nothing short.
Yeah,
You know, if you really want to see fucking Robert Pattinson beating his pud,
Yeah. To a fucking wooden figure
Yeah.
of
Yeah.
a mermaid.
Oh, I
fucking-
do.
you do.
fucking do it. Slam your eyeballs into
Yeah,
it.
you get a
Do it.
pretty gnarly scene with Dafoe's jism just dripping from the rafters. Which,
That's right.
that's
Look
pretty
like
rough.
monster blood from Goosebumps just dripping down the stairs.
Ugh.
Yes.
Yeah, there was you see a lot of ass, you see some
Yeah.
some shit in this movie.
Lots-
Some yabos.
Lots of
You hear a
farts
lot of
and-
farts.
and
Lots of-
masturbation. It's
I love Robert Pattinson's reaction to the farts. Like, the
I-
farts. My God, the farts.
That-
Like,
that's
more than
how-
anything else.
That's how I felt this weekend, smelling
I
Rob's
know.
farts at Spooky
Oh.
Empire.
I don't know what
he's
the
calling
fuck
out
you're
Bob.
talking about.
Did you get a contagion, bro?
I was
from
about to
Grindhouse?
put a rope around Rob and walk him into a ditch.
Why'd you spill your beans?
Dude,
All you had
that
to say
shot,
was please.
dude, him literally dog walking.
didn't even
Willem
talk
Dafoe
about that scene,
was great, by the way.
So
Yeah, he
he
beats
buries
him
him
in a
alive.
submission. He beats him in a submission, makes him act like a dog, walks him outside, throws him in a pit, and buries him alive.
we definitely
fucking
got to
cool.
talk about the like daddy Dom situation going on here.
Yeah. Okay. That's one thing I did want to talk about is like, there's definitely some homosexual themes in here, but I don't know like that I understand what the fuck. Like,
So there was a quote. There was a quote from Robert Pattinson that I absolutely loved. That was basically Robert Pattinson saying like, "Oh, you know, his character like he just wants a daddy." You know, and maybe it's just as simple as that. Like just kind of having this, you know, power dynamic, and maybe Robert Pattinson realizing there's something more going on inside of this erect lighthouse.
mhm. I don't know, man. He needs a power ditty.
It's jizzin' light.
He wants
I mean-
a power ditty, but he doesn't want an abusive one, I guess. And then so
Yeah.
he ends up like dog walking that motherfucker into a grave.
Robert Eggers in the script described the lighthouse as an erect penis.
Oh shit.
Yeah,
They
that's
built
just,
this lighthouse too.
Yeah, they did.
That's just even more
built
to
this
the case of the homoerotic undertones.
There's so much homoerotic undertone, and it's like I was like, what do I make of this right now? Are they like because like we could chalk a lot of it up to like just people losing their fucking minds and being like men at sea, you know, like just being so horn dogged out and have no outlet for it. You know,
Yeah.
you could talk it up to that, but there's definitely more than that. It's definitely more in engaged with homoeroticism than
Yeah.
simple like general horniness.
I think there was another quote too, I think it was like
Of
the
straight
same
men.
journalist who asked Willem Dafoe, like, so there's definitely some like some type of gay relationship going on here, some interesting like homoerotic like power balances. And Willem's Dafoe response was, yeah, so what?
I am something of a scientist myself.
All right.
But yeah,
Let's rate this thing.
All right.
We got to do it. Out of 5, Randy, why don't you kick us off? How you feeling?
I mean, we've gushed pretty hard about this movie, and I don't know what I would criticize it for right now. the thing that I'm chewing on still is like the underlying meaning of this movie. It took me a few viewings of The Witch to really land on what I think is the strongest interpretation of what that movie's about, like at its central thesis. And I don't know, like this movie to me, I think is going to be the same sort of journey where I don't know that I'll get everything out of it before I see it a few times. And I'm wondering, I watched The Witch, the first time I watched it, I got less out of it than the subsequent times. And I think I rated it not quite a 5 when we reviewed it. And now it's definitely a 5 movie to me. Like it's a movie that I point to as like some of the pinnacle of recent horror movies. So I'm thinking this movie is heading in that direction. There is a possibility though that it's so oblique that I won't be able to like really land on what I think this movie is. It's just got a lot of themes intertwining, and that's fine on its own. I'm wondering what subsequent viewings are going to do to me. I think they're going to make me appreciate it more. And based on that, I'm giving it a 5. I'm curious to find out what I think of it in a year though.
All right. 5 from Randy. Justin, how you feeling?
I absolutely love The Beach, and I thought this was a great follow-up to it, and now I just want this dude to make these like more and more and more of these like time period folk
tall tales.
Like I can't, like I hope he does, and I hope like in like 10 years I've got this collection of like Robert Eggers like films that like cover these different like
American
horror
folktales
aspects. Yeah, mermaid, you got a witch, and like things like that. I just I love the nautical themes that he uses. I love him touching on like the Neptune / Kraken, potentially what a tentacle monster, and like the mermaid siren thing going on. I thought that was really cool, even like the souls of this dead sailors and stuff like that. It's not something we get to see a lot, and I thought it was handled really well, especially through like the medium he chose of the black and white and the period piece. This movie is beautiful. It's not super accessible. It's a weird movie, but I love every aspect of it. The great dialogue, the attention to detail, and the time period, and the dialogue, and everything. I think it's a beautiful, really intriguing film. I wanted to see it again as soon as I was done watching it. I was like, I really want to watch it. So I definitely already want to see this many times, because I think you'll get something different each time. So. Or like you said, more and more and more each time. So yeah, I'm going to give it a 5-star.
All right.
Probably the best movie I've seen this year.
So like kind of what I started with in the beginning, like the fact that you can go into a major movie theater, and like go see a black and white, like, 1:19:1 aspect ratio film, that is just like layered with all these complex, interesting themes is absolutely like mind blowing. I love it so much. Like the fact that we get to make and have these types of movies to the mass public is just, it makes me so happy, because I feel like these things are what challenges our viewpoints as film goers, right? We have like maybe these mass produced film industries, but we're also getting these very detailed, masterful, expressions of art. Robert Eggers wields mythology like a paintbrush, and just it's perfect. So I'm going to give it a 4.5.
Really?
Yeah.
What's your critique?
Yeah, where's the negatives?
I want to see how I feel about it in, maybe the coming years, but I'm not opposed to adjusting my score, later down the road.
Well, we evened each other out on that, I guess.
I was waiting for the, just kidding. It's a 5, but, cool. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck I think about this movie yet, to be totally honest.
Bob's been quiet.
I am just confused by it. I Fucking great time watching it in the theater, and I really, really wanted to see it one more time before we did the show because I don't know what the fuck I think about it. There's a lot going on that's just like, it's just chaotic, like intentionally chaotic. It's very disjointing, and the story is just non-linear. You don't, at a certain point, you just literally don't know what the fuck is happening on screen. But I love the artistry of it. Like any one single frame in this movie could be like taken and framed, hung on a wall, and it's like a beautiful piece of art. It looks gorgeous. Also, something we didn't talk about, the music in this is incredible. Like it's got that like low moody oboe kind of thing going on, and it's also got that like as far as the sound design, there's like that foghorn that reoccurs throughout the entire movie, which I mean, if that alone isn't enough to drive somebody insane, I don't know what is. And then add that onto having to do like all the work on your own, and then your boss is on your ass telling you you're not worth a damn, and then forcing you to drink, and then you start drinking oil like because you ran out of actual liquor. Like, of course you're going to go absolutely insane. I don't know. It's just, I love the themes that are working here and like the multiple ways that you can interpret it, most of which hadn't occurred to me until now, hearing you guys talk about it. The Greek mythology is like pretty much handed to you, so I was kind of running with that in my brain anyways. But there's just so much going on. I have to see it a few more times to figure out really how I feel about it. And that's kind of the only way I'm going to give it a 4.5 as well. I can't give it a 5 because my mind is getting fucked currently.
Whoa.
God damn.
Fuck.
Yeah, but for now, I really, really enjoy it, and I can't wait to see it again. Our aggregate's going to be a 4.75 on this one, which is pretty good. Let's go ahead and jump into our Rotten Tomatoes segment, see what the critics and users think about The Lighthouse.
Certified fresh to death.
All right, we are going to go around the table. It's actually kind of nice having more than just two people. It's less. Does anybody know, or Anthony, do you know the Rotten Tomatoes?
No.
Okay, good. All right, so we are going to go around the table. The boys are going to try to guess what the critic score is for The Lighthouse. Actually, really high count on this. Total critic count, 258. So
not bad.
That's pretty good. Yeah. So let's go. Anthony, why don't you kick us off? Guest can start first. What do you think the critics rated The Lighthouse?
I don't know. I feel like this is something that maybe a lot of major critics would be interested in. It feels very different. Like I said, very, very masterful. I maybe like a 84.
84. Okay. Randy, what do you think?
I mean, I think the critics are going to be falling all over themselves to like this one. Lord knows we did. But I also think there's going to be plenty of naysayers that need to differentiate themselves too. So with that in mind, I'm going to put it pretty damn high at a 90. I'm going to say 92.
92. All right. And Bob.
Ooh, I think I'm going to split the difference. 87.
87. Hit it on the head. He's been on Pfizer. Red Stag Randy's going to take it with a 92 on the dot.
Okay.
That's why you don't spill your beans.
This is certified fresh. The critic consensus is a gripping story, brilliantly filmed and led by a pair of powerhouse performances. The Lighthouse further establishes Robert Eggers as a filmmaker of exceptional talent. Yes, that is all true. Nice. Okay, let's hop into the audience score. Verified Oozer ratings, 1,283. Let's reverse. So, Bob, you get to start first.
Ooh, this is difficult because, like we've mentioned, this movie is not the most accessible. But then again, I think if you've seen the trailer, you know this movie is going to be bonkers. I'll do like I don't know, just 80. I'll take 80.
80. All right, Randy.
I'll sit with an 85. You know what? 86. I'm liking. I hit it on the nose by not going to rounding to the nearest 5. So I'm going 80.
There you go.
There you go.
Project. All right. And Anthony, what do you think?
Yeah, I guess we are going completely in reverse here. I'll go 90.
90. And wait, Rob, what was yours?
80.
80, 86, 90. Bob is going to take it.
Oh,
You son of a bitch.
Yeah, been having a hard time lately. It's actually a 70%.
Damn.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean,
significantly lower. People just don't know good film, I guess.
Not every movie can be bringing down the house, too.
They just don't understand it like we do. You know?
Let's put our snob hats on real hard right now.
They just don't get it.
Did you get it?
It's okay to be stupid.
Did you get it? The Lighthouse is a cock. Okay.
Take your next Star Wars film and get the fuck out of here.
There wasn't a single Thanos in this movie.
You pedestrian ass pieces of shit.
You're not hard with us.
Hashtag flaccid with us, you piece of.
Don't start that.
Andy, new t-shirt idea.
Yeah, let's not get that one going
Money's flowing.
viral.
Why just spill your beans? Yeah.
Sorry, I had to go a little Jejun thing.
Jejun stain.
All right, so that is our Rotten Tomatoes segment. Let's get into trivia. Randy, you have lots of trivia for us?
I have lots and lots of trivia for us. So
See,
here
I can
we
host.
go.
It's totally time for trivia.
All right. So there's a lot of
What a hot
information
streak.
here. Starting with the very first scene they filmed was Pattinson's masturbation scene.
Whoa, starting off strong.
Yeah. And Willem's burying scene was shot on day 2. So they really starting out strong.
Just go ahead and get this out of the way, guys.
We're gonna go ahead and lay the ground. Like this is what you can expect from your characters in the whole movie.
Once you jerked off in front of the film crew, you feel just that much closer to them.
Well, speaking of, by coincidence, this is the third movie where Robert Pattinson's character has a masturbation scene after Little Ashes in 2008 and Damsel in 2018, with maybe a fourth one happening in the next year's The Devil All the Time. I don't know why
I was going to
we're
say
doing that.
Batman.
Yeah, when they're already anticipating.
Dude, I want to see a version of Batman where Bruce Wayne is like psychosexually attracted to bats.
Whoa. Okay, wait. Do you guys know about the DC Black Label?
I know generally that it exists.
Okay,
but no.
so it's like a subsidiary of DC Comics that's like to tell more darker, extreme stories. And so they did like a Batman run where Batman is getting out of the Batmobile. He's like taking off the bat suit. He's walking into the shadows and like he's covered in shadows, but you see the very glimpse of his dong.
Oh, I did see that dong.
And they had to do a reissue where they had to shade it back over. It's fucking hilarious. Anyway,
That's ridiculous.
You see Bat Dong. It's
Bat
true. It was a
cock.
big deal for a minute.
For a hot minute.
Robert Pattinson, Batcock, coming this fall. When asked to describe the movie, director-writer Robert Eggers always used the same choice of words in every interview, which is this, quote, "Nothing good can happen when two men are trapped alone in a giant phallus."
Damn.
And I mean, not to counteract the man, but I think there are some gentlemen out there who might beg to differ. They might find that quite stimulating.
hey,
Let's see. Because it was shot on XX stock black and white, it requires much more light to get exposure. So they had to use about 15 to 20 times more light on set to actually see the film. The crew put flickering 500 to 800 watt halogen bulbs in period correct kerosene lamps, that were only a few feet away from the actors' faces. And this resulted in the set being blindingly bright. So the actors could barely see each other. Because of this, Because of this, the crew would often wear sunglasses. So, yeah, apparently these guys are blinded for this movie for real.
Damn.
Appropriate. Thematically appropriate.
That's weird because it
film.
seems like it would affect like their face. Like obviously you naturally like want to squint or like, shy away from really bright light.
I guess they found ways of concealing it or like strategically moving it so that wasn't such a big deal on a close-up or something. I don't know.
Huh. Interesting.
Dafoe and Pattinson stated that they barely spoke a word to each other on set and were too exhausted to hang out together after a day of shooting because filming was so physically demanding due to the miserable weather conditions. While Pattinson stayed in a normal hotel with the rest of the crew during the shoot, Dafoe lived in a little fisherman cottage in solitude. On set, on the other hand, Pattinson would tend to eat and stay by himself on filming breaks, while Dafoe stayed with the crew. Both stated that they liked each other very much as soon as they had their first real conversation a few months later.
Yeah. That's so interesting to me.
There's more.
Like, working with people and just like never like saying, like, I feel like even before it would shoot, I would be like, hey man, what's up? Should be fun. Or like, oh, we're going to do this together. Something that's wild.
Apparently not. Before filming began, Dafoe and Pattinson rehearsed with Robert Eggers for a week in a hotel in Halifax. While Dafoe loved to rehearse, given his extensive theater background, Pattinson did not want to show and let out too much beforehand, preferring to jump into the scene blindly. He found the rehearsal process frustrating and uncomfortable, being used to react impulsively in front of the camera and getting self-conscious by thinking too much about a scene beforehand. His method being that if he accomplishes certain things in rehearsal, it will later ruin the spontaneity in front of the camera. Director Robert Eggers welcomed the two worked so differently and stated they have this incredible electric chemistry on screen, but it was chemistry through tension that couldn't have been better for the movie. So these guys were like basically forced into hating each other as a de facto circumstance of this role, which
That's pretty awesome.
Which is perfect because that's absolutely what they're supposed to do. Robert Pattinson had an unusual approach to psych himself up before emotional extreme scenes. Robert Eggers said sometimes he'd beat himself in the face so bad, or he'd stick fingers down his throat to make himself gag, things like that. A particular scene where both characters are drunk and Dafoe lies on Pattinson's chest, he was sticking his fingers down his throat before the take. And this is Eggers talking. He was sticking his fingers down his throat before the take. Willem gave me a look as if to say, if Rob fucking pukes on me. So good.
Damn, dude.
Yeah. Dedicated.
That's intense.
Yep. The cast and crew filmed under extreme weather conditions, freezing temperatures, cold Atlantic water, intense winds, snow, rain, and no protective flora on the Fortu terrain kept them exposed to elements throughout the shoot. 3 nor'easters blew across Cape Fortu during the various stages of production. Much of the film was shot in real weather elements, so rain and wind machines weren't needed for most of the time. With Eggers stating that the most crazy and dramatic stuff was shot for real. I don't think it could be, but that shot
I was going to say, you're telling me Robert Pattinson threw real piss and shit in his own face?
He really did. Actually,
no way.
Robert Eggers said that scene was inspired by The Big Lebowski, as a matter of fact.
Nice.
Oh my God, I fucking called it.
That's awesome.
Oh, I love that.
It's good shit. Central to the sound design is a bellowing foghorn. So sound designer Damien Volpe turned to J.J. Jameson, a craftsman in Shetland, Scotland, who makes YouTube tutorials on operating and maintaining foghorns for recordings of period-accurate foghorn. Using Jameson's samples, Volpe manipulated the sound and created a foghorn that was ominous, memorable, and unique to the film.
There you go.
There you go. Brr. Pattinson's accent is based off a very specific area of Maine farming dialect, while Dafoe's is the jargon of Atlantic fishermen and sailors of the time. The director, Robert Eggers, was very precise about the actors' accents and line delivery. He would, for example, give instructions to say, quote, say the second sentence of your third line 75% faster.
That's insane.
God damn.
That's insane.
Holy shit.
Seagulls were harmed while filming this movie. None.
Aww.
Fake ones made out of rubber were used for that particular scene.
Now kill this goal.
Yeah.
Pattinson, 75% faster.
He'd do it. He's method, bro. The design of the mermaid's genitals is based on shark labias. The mermaid labia was constructed entirely out of silicone. Eggers on the backstory said, the mermaid on the Starbucks cup that has two tails is based on an early mermaid design. Medieval and Renaissance mermaids were always split up so that these anima figures of male fantasy could perform their role that had been unfairly thrust upon them by their male imaginers. But no surprise that in the Victorian era, they closed the mermaids up and made them impenetrable. So that single-tailed mermaid silhouette has become the archetypal mermaid look for people today, and also what a mermaid would have looked like in the period of the movie. But we still had to figure out how mermaids can copulate and create more mermaids. So we studied shark genitals.
I would really like to look at Robert Eggers' web history.
Dude, that guy, this man is on several NSA lists right now. That's for sure.
Damn.
The script did not explain what Wake and Winslow's characters were seeing when they are staring into the light of the lighthouse. When Dafoe and Pattinson were playing these scenes, they didn't know it either. The script only explained how their characters felt while looking at the light. So very much a Pulp Fiction-y approach to that lighthouse.
Yeah.
The scene where Dafoe's character gives the sea curse to Pattinson's character was shot in a single take. According to Robert Eggers, Willem Dafoe did not blink for over 2 minutes.
Oh my God.
That's more than I could do, for sure.
I'm kind of excited about old Robert being Batman now. The dude seems
it's definitely going to be very informed by this role.
I'm just saying, like, it seems like this dude can it seems like
he's really put in his legwork to try and distance himself from, the teeny bopper fare. You got to give it to him.
But then he does all these jack off scenes, so I can't help but think the directors are just trying to pull that crowd back in,
Yeah,
He does.
those Twilight girls are this close to every screening of the Lighthouse.
They're in their mid-20s.
That's
now,
what puts
baby,
them over, man. According to Robert Eggers, the film was meant to include, quote, a very juvenile shot of a lighthouse moving like an erect penis and a match cut to an actual erect penis belonging to Pattinson. But it got cut after the premiere of the Cannes Film Festival.
Would have been a little on the nose.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
Do you get it?
Fucking penises.
I mean, there was already that one shot where you kind of start at like it's some angled version and it goes fully 90 degrees up.
Yeah. It's very clear. It did not need that scene. And this is the last bit that we're going to cover because we got to move on. But Robert Eggers said this about the film's music. I was looking for an aleatoric score with nods to ancient Greek music. I wanted to de-emphasize strings and instead focus on glass and instruments you can blow into, including horns and pipes. It needed to sound like the sea, but I realized that we needed elements that would also harken back to an old movie score. So that's a nod to Bernard Herrmann. So there is a nod to Bernard Herrmann, who I'm not familiar with, but I will look up.
He did the Psycho score.
Okay, thank you.
And I believe The Exorcist.
God damn.
He begrudgingly did The Exorcist. Short, funny story about that. William Friedkin approached him about doing The Exorcist, and he first refused and pretty much saying, I really don't want to make anything for your trash film.
Well, I mean, I'm glad he did because that's a fucking iconic score. All right. Well, there we go. Trivia done.
All right.
You know what we're doing?
Are we hunting?
Cooter hunting.
We're going hunting. Let's do it.
Hunt 'em.
They're
It's
both
that
cooters.
fucking seagull.
They're both cooters.
That piece of shit. I feel like we need to reach a consensus. I feel like I'm in full support of adding the pathetic tier to the chart of Cooter. Now, how does everybody feel? I think Anthony can weigh in too.
Yeah.
Anthony, I don't know if you're familiar, but we have for everyone listening, we have our Cooter, which is our character type. We have been riding on a chart for a year and a half now, close to, of 4 points of smug arrogance, sexual deviancy, attire, and the one we always forget.
It's wait, what? Oh fuck! Yeah, we forgot.
Self-importance.
Manipulation. Thank God. Okay.
I
so
am a
manipulation,
student in
smug
Cooterdom.
arrogance. So we are thinking of adding a fifth tier, which is patheticness. Like, how pathetic are you? And we kind of did a comparison because Randy pointed out that Jeremiah Sand, almost like King Cooter, is a very
Mandy,
pathetic.
for those who don't know.
Yeah, from Mandy, is a very pathetic type of character, especially like later on in the film. And then whereas the dentist, what is his name, Randy?
Orin Scrivello from Little Shop of Horrors.
Shop of Horrors is not really pathetic, even though he's kind of a piece of shit, but he's actually like kind of like I don't know, he's actually
if you can exist as a Cooter without being pathetic, I think that means it is a quantifiable entity on the wheel of Cooterdom.
Yeah,
personally.
Yeah. So exactly, there you go. So you can have a Cooter without being pathetic. So Anthony, what do you think of adding this tier?
I'm gonna put in I'm gonna put in my 2 votes for who I want to be the Cooter of the week, or who is the Cooter of the week. So it's either Willem Dafoe's character or it's the Siren.
The Siren. Okay.
She's just hanging out with her Yabo.
She's just doing what sirens do, bro.
Right. Well, there's elements of like sexual deviancy there, especially just fucking jism all over the place.
Sure.
Okay.
You have like manipulation. Like
strong,
naturally manipulative. All right.
I mean, attire, you can't really say anything for the Siren. Willem Dafoe, maybe he's got those long johns.
Depends on how legitimate that seaman outfit is, or if it's just him playing a role.
Right. But yeah, I don't know. That's my pitch.
You don't think Pattinson ranks?
I don't know.
He dog walks a dude into a grave.
Yeah, but that's true.
Sexual deviancy, there's some sexual.
But that's a baller move. I mean,
we know where Anthony. We know what role Anthony likes to play.
That's just gangsta shit. That's all that is.
Just keeping it real, man.
Got a bunch of dog collars.
Illuminating in Anthony's psyche. All right. Do you think we should add, Anthony, do you think we should add a pathetic ranking to the chart?
I think there has to be elements of that for sure. But yeah, I guess it kind of depends how much weight you want to give to kind of the pathetic column.
It's true.
I don't know if there are any
none of our characters today, like if we were going to say like, oh, he kind of ranks, I don't feel like any of them are necessarily pathetic.
Right. Yeah, I wouldn't
say Willem a little bit, if indeed he is pretending to be the salty seaman.
I feel like it's a rarity and overall kind of unnecessary, but if I am alone in my principles, that is fine.
Well, no, other people have expressed that opinion, Rob. That's why we're,
Stop being such a fucking conservative Cooter hunter, Rob.
Yeah, Rob, why don't you just get pathetic with us, man? Come on.
I'm the one over here saying that they're both Cooters, and you're like, I don't know about that.
I almost think, I
throwing the book at 2 people. That sounds conservative.
I think Winslow would be. Dude fucks a mermaid.
He does fuck a mermaid, man. At least in his
sexual
mind.
deviancy is high.
I mean, it was already Cooterific to masturbate with the wooden figurine.
He's manipulating,
but that's
the audience and everybody because he steals a dude's identity.
I know he steals a dude's identity
before it was cool.
Yeah, that's
before you do it on the internet.
Cool. He has some moments of smug arrogance, and when we were talking about kind of like the generational like dissonance, like he kind of like I don't know. Like
he's a little guy. He's got some like smug arrogance. He keeps it on the DL for the most part, but once he starts getting into it with Robert or with Thomas, older Dafoe, yeah, he starts like laying in. And he's like, I work hard, and it is kind of like, yeah.
He also kills
people who work hard usually don't have to say that real loud.
I don't mind that he killed that bird. Was like.
Yeah, kind of fuck that bird,
dude. Yeah, fuck that bird.
Kind of fuck that bird.
All right.
I think we got a barrel full of Cooters here. I think we got a whole island of Cooters. Personally,
I agree.
I'm happy with
including the fucking
personally.
bird, I guess.
they're different. They're different strains, but they're the same genus.
Yeah.
They're all
right. So do we need to we need to do like a voting system
Yeah,
here?
bro.
Like who's getting kicked off the island or what?
I would go Pattinson.
Are we picking one? If we pick one,
Sure.
then
I
I'll
would
go Dafoe.
I'll
Winslow.
say Dafoe.
Yeah, if
Because
I had
at least-
to pick one, I'd go Dafoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Owning my principles.
Well,
Dude, fuck's a mermaid. Come on.
but luckily we're not playing by survival
Both.
rules, so fuck this whole island of Cooters.
All right.
Both.
Okay.
It's both.
And their imaginary shark vaginaed mermaids.
Yep. And
All
the
right.
bird. Fuck that bird.
And that bird, yeah. Oh, even the animals and like just everything in this movie is a Cooter. The fucking lighthouse itself is a Cooter.
It is. It's manipulative.
It is a dong.
Self-important as fuck.
It's it's
big old
definitely
dong.
its
Sexual
appearance.
deviance.
Mm-hmm. Definitely jisms a guy at one point in the movie.
Cool. We got voicemails. We gotta get into our voicemails segment. Hotline Scream. As we've been doing for the past several weeks, we've been posing a question for you guys to call in. And this past week, we posed the question: what was your favorite part of Spooky Season 2019? So we got a few responses here this week. First up, we're going to hear from our boy Hydraberg calling in. Here we go.
What up, boys? It's your boy Hydraberg. I just wanted to call in, say happy Halloween. It's a little late probably, but it's all good. My most memorable moment of spooky season right now is probably the subgenre challenge that I've been doing, where I've been watching a different genre movie each day. And I've been make myself watch certain movies that I haven't seen before. And also the Joe Bob live watch last Friday was dope, even though I fell asleep. Bob, I'm with you. It was still fun as usual. And just, listening to the episodes each week this past month with you guys has been dope, as usual. Before I go, Soju, I got a little something for you. I'm the Lord of the Harvest. All right? Don't go so hard on Texas Chainsaw 2, all right? Drink some Soju again and watch it. And if you don't like it, I might pick it as my next Patreon pick and make you watch it again. Okay? Just be forewarned. That's getting you back for Ghosts, buddy. Okay? You guys keep chilling, all right? Enjoy the All Hallows Eve and all that. And eat a lot of candy. Enjoy.
Don't threaten us with a good time.
I can only stand
I
you when
wish.
you're drunk.
If we have to watch it again, I'll definitely be like, okay, we got to cast on a weekend, boys, and I'll bring out the soju because that movie would warrant.
Yeah,
but I would
think
also
the
welcome
vitriol
that.
is much. I don't remember much of your complaints because I was in Red Stag mode, but
That's true, Red Stag Randy.
but I feel like if we could watch it together and be both Red Stagged out of our minds,
That's
I think
true.
we'd have a great time.
That would probably make a big difference.
And I would certainly be able to defend it more eloquently if I was not.
Ooh, you got tore up, Randy. I've listened to that segment several times.
Oh, Lord. I haven't brought myself to do it. Not that I listen to any of our shit, but
Sure. Yeah.
extra
pretty
not
funny.
listening to that episode.
Well, thanks for calling in, Hydraberg. It's always good to hear from you.
Glad you had a good spooky season, my guy.
Yeah, man. Thanks for hanging out with us and being so damn hard with us.
Hashtag hard with us.
Hard with us.
Speaking of homoerotic themes,
Yeah, I know.
Dude, the squad deep.
we're not
All right.
dissuading any of that.
It's lit, fam. Let's go.
We got another voicemail. We got to hear from Stacy. Let's hear what she has to say.
All right.
Hey guys, it's Stacy. I haven't called in a long time, but I thought I would because I really liked your question of the week, which was what's been the most memorable moment for me this spooky season. So for me, also happy late Halloween. But for me, I went to Birmingham to visit a close friend of mine, and we went to this haunted house called Atrox Factory, and it was really scary. I go to Universal every year for Halloween Horror Nights, and that kind of becomes like predictable. You can kind of like hear all those scares before you like go into the next room, and it's very predictable when you're going to be scared. It's kind of getting old. So this was like a nice new thing to kind of experience. It was like huge. It was 50,000 square feet, and the scare actors were allowed to touch you. So it was really scary. It was a lot of fun. It was like 20 minutes of just endless, like really great design, like really great costumes, and their masks were really good quality. So it was a lot of fun. Other than that, on Halloween night, I stayed home and candy out to trick-or-treaters. But it was kind of a bummer because we got one trick-or-treater all night, and I was in the other room, and I missed them. And then I came out, and, yeah, they were gone. It was really funny, though. It was a good laugh. But anyways, yeah, that was it for me, probably. It was a really good Halloween overall. Yeah. I guess I'll talk to you later. Bye.
Man, it's been a while since we heard from old stalker Stacy. It's good to hear from you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. We didn't get any trick-or-treaters because of the blanket of snow that fell down. And just people were going out for like 3 houses and taking their kids right home just to say they did it. And we were not one of those houses. So I feel you on that. But all that, I don't know if I feel you on the people touching me haunted house. I don't know if I can handle that.
Yeah, I'm out. Not okay with that.
I don't know, man. That's a little much for me, but good for you for being able to get through it, especially after the McCamey Manor stuff that's happening. I've seen too much. I'm too nervous with that shit right now. Put me in Universal and maybe I'll talk, but I don't know about anything else really at this point.
Yeah. I think if you got just one trick-or-treater coming to your house and you happen to miss him, you got to run after that kid. You got to run after that kid and throw more candy in his bucket. That's all you
Give him the whole bag.
Yeah. Hey, kid. It's cool. Nothing bad will happen.
Nothing.
We got one more voicemail. We got to hear from old Matt.
Hey, guys. This is Matt Stinson here in Jacksonville. I was calling because I watched the Lighthouse this week to get ready for this episode. I'd have to say it's not really a scary movie. At no point did I feel scared, though there was a lot of tension. I think it would be more of a psychological thriller than an actual horror movie, but that did not mean I did not enjoy it. I thought it was a very good movie, but I don't think it's going to have the rewatchability that The Witch had. I could watch The Witch once a week and be happy with it, but I don't think this movie's going to be on par with that. There were a lot of things I liked about the movie. Locking Green Goblin and Team Edward into a house together doesn't seem like a great premise, but it did work very well, especially when old Team Edward went full Red Stag Randy and became Bill the Butcher for no reason and started dancing and being silly bitch. Also, there was a lot more mermaid vagina than I was ready for. Actually, mermaids, I believe, have a cloaca, which means they poop and pee out of there. So Mr. Edward might want to wash himself off a bit. I did enjoy the full Lovecraftian aspect of the movie. I personally like to think about the light actually being some kind of supernatural thing instead of all this just being old Team Edwards going crazy, figment of his imagination. When I think about it in that light, it makes the movie much, much better for me, because I don't really care if he went crazy, but I do care about monsters and demigods and shit like that. Anyway, can't wait to hear the episode and see what y'all thought of it. And y'all have a good week. Can't wait to hear the next episode. Bye.
Matt, good to hear from you, man.
Thanks for bringing up that aspect, because that's not something we really
we didn't cover that really
a lot about. Yeah,
like if this is a genuine thing,
yeah.
If this light is actually supernatural in some capacity, and maybe it's the thing.
I like that too.
Issues. Yeah.
It
like all works.
Aspect, even like from the Lovecraft, like when he peers into it and obviously goes insane and dies. So yeah.
Mhm.
Great stuff.
Don't stick it in a cloaca. You're gonna get some sort of weird like mermaid venereal disease.
Oh man, that's all good.
It's gonna turn your dick into seaweed or something.
It's like mega crabs.
Oh no, I got mega crabs. I think that's the first time Matt has called in, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it's not the first, but it's been a little bit.
It's been a while then. Yeah. Matt's a badass. Matt owns a sword
Matt from
school.
Saxonville.
From Saxonville. Yeah. He can legitimately murder people with swords, which is awesome. So
yeah. Well, not just accidentally.
Yeah. He knows how to wield that shit. And he can teach you how to do it. Bold City Longsword. Check it out if you're interested. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So that's all the voicemails we got this week. If you're listening, you want to call and leave us a voicemail, you can hit us up at 904-638-3231. We hadn't decided on like a question for this week. I don't know if you guys want to do that. If there's anything you have.
Who put the Raz in the razzmatazz?
Damn.
Call in and spill your beans to us. If you got some crazy secret you never told anybody
tell us
before.
Call us in and spill your beans.
Yeah, please do. Let us know. Drop a dime on
I actually would be happy if we just changed the segment to that permanently. But
let's just change the podcast. People call in with their darkest secrets and we talk about them.
Yeah, and then we deal with it and then try to sleep.
Yeah.
Try to sleep.
Podcast canceled.
Cool. Maybe we'll get like a secret serial killer that has never talked about it but needs an outlet, and now we'll
maybe his name is Drew.
Maybe not. I don't know. We'll find out.
I said secret serial killer.
You're right.
I said secret.
We don't know his last name. We just know he's Drew.
Drew the serial killer, scariest guy on the planet.
Mm-hmm.
This is Brew calling to
Brew White.
Brew. The name's Brew. How you doing?
Here to talk about my murders.
So we got one more segment before we end the show.
One more this is going to be a good segment. Let's hang on.
Get on your YouTubes. Let's take a look.
Drop the bump.
Where did Bob go wrong? Worrying his friends, sifting way too long through those Blu-ray bins, and it gets worse. He'll have no jet ski, wasting all his dough on those DVDs.
All right, Bob, you've been wasting all your dough on those DVDs, all your dough. And hang on, before you show the stack, Bob, wait a second. I want to
run the totals.
I want to set this up for a second because Bob buys a lot of physical media. First of all, we've been tracking it, and he promised us a bloodbath for October. He actually ended the spooky season with 17 Blu-ray purchases, which was actually pretty normal. But the thing was,
for Rob specifically.
Well, okay, sure. For Rob, yeah, pretty normal for Rob. Rob was waiting on a Vinegar Syndrome package last week that he thought was going to arrive. It didn't arrive, so we had that one. Also, Bob, this past weekend you went to Spooky Empire.
Grindhouse.
You posted some pictures about all the Blu-rays you were.
And the reasonable prices.
So I am anticipating a big week for Bob to start off November. First week of November is November 4th. November 4, 4 days into the month, Bob. Let's see, how many Blu-rays have you purchased? YouTube.
Oh, it's two-hander. It's a two-hander.
Ooh, oh my God. Oh, Bob, it's so thick.
It's so thick. Holy
I don't even know how to count those. There's like
Amityville 92. What are you, nuts?
I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 boxes, but it looks like there's so many Blu-rays in those boxes.
Yeah, those boxes are bigger than the fucking all of the Harry Potter movies.
Those are 7 boxes. 2 of them are like collections. So I got the Ring U collection from Arrow. I
gotta count those separate though,
the
because
Ring trilogy.
The price is higher.
So
definitely.
You got 3 there, and then also I got the Amityville box set from Arrow, which or not
that's
from Arrow,
4,
from Vinegar Syndrome, which is 4. Yeah.
So 7 plus So that's 7 for the box sets plus the individuals.
Yeah. Plus, I also got the Arrow release of the American Werewolf in London, and then I got
8.
4 other Vinegar Syndrome titles here: Pledge Night, Unmasked 25, which I mentioned briefly for what we've been watching. Also, Berserker and Beyond the Door 3.
So Bob, on November 4th, we're gonna start the month off
Hang on.
with 12.
Hang on.
Oh wait.
Oh,
Shit. Is there another stack?
You want to see what I bought when I was at Spooky Empire?
oh my God! Bob, was that just your package that you were anticipating
Rob.
last week?
The jet
Maybe.
ski, Rob. Think of the jet
Oh
ski.
my God! So Bob would have ended October with 29. Bob has a separate stack. The bloodbath
my
has
God.
hit us.
Oh
The
my
bloodbath
God.
has hit us.
What a twist.
Bob.
What a fucking twist.
Worst part 2.
Ready?
Hit us, Bob.
YouTube
Spooky
exclusive.
Empire. 1,
Jesus
2, 3, 4,
fucking
5, 6. I can't count. I can't count fast enough. I can't count fast enough.
Motherfucker.
Dude, that's so
Oh my
many. In 4 days, Bob has shattered.
Is that
his
17? Is that 17 in your hand right now?
record. Oh, I can't count. I can't count fast enough.
Oh man.
Bob,
How many is that,
many?
Bob?
Count.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
Bob has never
Yeah,
hit
it's
20 in a
17.
month.
Oh my God. We're at 29. We're at 29.
Bob,
Yeah.
We're at 29. We
shattered the record. 20 Rob in one weekend at Spooky Empire bought the same that he bought in the entire month of October. 17.
Okay.
So
In Rob's defense, though, we did bully him that he was not buying enough movies.
True.
I'm sorry.
was-
I'm sorry. Rob doesn't get a
Peer
defense
pressure.
here. Not this month. Not this
Rob
week.
had some enablers. Oh, Bob, it's like a junkie festival for Bob. It was like one of the
It's a
old
junkie festival.
the old ICP drug bridge, for a meth addict.
Just a junkie festival. You're just a juggalo in a room full of Fanta. What could you do?
Bob.
I think they just call that New Jersey.
Oh, Bob, the bloodbath is here. November is going to shatter all kind of records because you have Black Friday this
Yeah.
month.
Yeah. Also,
Bob.
Criterion half off sale at Barnes and Noble. So.
Oh my God.
Baby.
Oh, Bob,
You're going to fill a whole
are-
shelf this month. My God.
You're going to hit like several months worth this month, Bob. You're at 29. That's like 2 of our months. You
Why?
have hit 15 and
Why?
14 before. Bob.
Why did you spill your beans?
So I actually, what packages did you get, or what? So with Vinegar Syndrome, that's where you got all the box sets, right?
No, the Ring You box set is Arrow. The other box set was the Amityville Horror.
Okay.
Yeah, that's Vinegar Syndrome.
Okay. So what did you get specifically in the Vinegar Syndrome package? And did they give you any extras? Is there something special to be said, like for getting a Vinegar Syndrome package? Did you get
No.
any stickers or anything?
No, they have sent me stickers before, but not this time. No.
Okay.
Sons of
Wait.
bitches.
So what's
Calling them
down
out.
go down the stack? Let's hear them all.
So I got Murder Rock, which is Lucio Fulci joint. I picked up The Nest, which is Scream Factory. It's going out of print. I picked up The Fearless Vampire Hunters, which is the first time that's ever been on Blu-ray. I actually haven't seen it before, but I'm looking forward to that. Pumpkinhead 2, Blood Wings.
Ooh,
Also,
I want to see that one.
Scream Factory going out of print. Squirm, Scream Factory going out of print. The Dark Half, Scream Factory going out of print. Psycho Cop Returns, which is a Vinegar Syndrome joint. Two Evil Eyes, which is half Argento, half Romero joint. I picked up The Visit because it was super cheap and I like that movie. Let's go Shyamalan. The Undertaker, which is another Vinegar Syndrome joint. The Hearse, which is a Vinegar Syndrome joint. The Church, which is an Italian movie, is actually like one of those random Italian movies that it was supposed to be a sequel to Demons, but it turned out like not working out, so they changed the name last second. I think it was actually going to be Demons 3, but they changed the name. I picked up a copy of the Carrie remake. I got My Soul to Take, which I've never seen. Slaughter High, which is a Vestron joint. Picked up Terraformers, which is put out by Arrow Video. That's a Takashi Miike movie. And I also picked up May, which is just good.
I want to, for the YouTube exclusive, Bob, a couple times he would say, like, going out of print. He's got this, like, sly look, like, see, guys, you sons of bitches, I have to buy this. That's what that looks like. Going out of print.
I'm just letting
What am I supposed to do? Not buy?
Letting the
With
listeners
the side squint on the YouTube exclusive, you have a look, Bob. See, it's going out of print, and I gotta buy it.
Whatever.
You're
also, that was like 2 or 3 movies.
I'm just gonna start.
I'm
lying
so glad.
I don't know. I didn't buy.
I'm so
anything
glad you're. I'm so glad you're not an adult in the era of Beanie Babies. I think it would be a bloodbath. Just these are
also,
investments.
There's something I wanted to point out too that was hilarious to me. So we gave Bob some shit last week because 2 weeks in a row he had purchased Rob Zombie films, who we just shit on constantly. One he justified because it was a new movie, he wanted to see it. Okay, the next one was 31, which Bob has shit on constantly for being a terrible movie. And his justification last week was, well, I gotta watch it for the cast. What am I gonna do? I gotta buy the movie. Somebody clearly pointed out on our Slack channel, they were like, Bob, it's on Shudder.
I didn't know that.
It's on Shudder.
Oh.
We watched it on Shudder together.
That's not true. I've only seen it once, and it was before I had Shudder.
No, I don't think so, man. I don't know where else I would have seen it. Where else would it have been hosted? Because it was streaming.
No, I know. It was back when I had my Fire Stick that was unlocked. That's how I watched it. That's the only time I ever watched it.
Okay. Back in, you had no ethics.
I just thought it was either Hydraberg or maybe Jim G Baby. They were calling you out a bit. Bob, it's on Shudder. You just stream it.
I really didn't know that, or else I would have just done that. But whatever.
You know, so you know what's going on a print, but not what's on Shudder. I get it. It's
things change.
So,
they change all the time. I can't keep up with it all.
Rob, I feel confident now that November is going to be your high. I hope November is your highest month, because if you get higher than this, I don't know what to do anymore. I feel the end of the year is coming up. I feel pretty confident that you will hit that jet ski level. That's our whole thing. Could Rob have just bought a jet ski had he just saved all his money? You know,
a life-saving, hurricane-thwarting jet ski.
Yeah, jet ski. So I feel pretty confident. We're still waiting on that call from a jet ski salesman to let us know.
If you work for Yamaha.
Bob could have. Also to talk about a potential sponsorship. We would love
Custom
to hear from
Sea-Doo, straight chilling Sea-Doo.
Yeah, jet ski salesman, please give us a call. Let us know how Bob is fucking up. Also, how we can get sponsored by you.
Call in. Shame our hosts.
Yeah. So, Bob, 29. You had, up until this point, we've been counting since the month of June. You had never hit 20 before. You have shattered that. It is November 4th. It is. We got a long month ahead of us.
It's going to go up. It's definitely going to go up.
I know it's going up.
Okay.
I mean, the cork's been pulled. I mean, this thing's just flowing out now.
Now it's like, what's the next? 29. I mean, I feel like
this might be unbeatable.
I 50 now. Like, now I'm wondering how
the next
high is it
benchmark.
gonna go, Bob. We'll see, huh?
Your reaction was my favorite. Like when you grabbed your head and just yelled, "I can't count."
Dude, the second stack. What a great reveal, Bob. We didn't even know there was a
great reveal,
stack
Bob.
coming.
I was like, this is actually maybe a little disappointing. And then you blew our assholes out.
I thought, hey, for November 4th, 12, wow, like we're starting off strong. No, Bob killed it. 29.
I should have known better. I should have known.
And I didn't even buy the most at Spooky Empire.
Oh, no shit.
Who bought the most? Anthony?
Oh, no. I don't have Rob's big pockets.
Who bought the most? Was it Mikey? Mikey buys damn boxes.
It was either Mikey or Brett.
Brett did. I think he bought like 24.
Wow. Woo. So Mikey trying to strike any deals this time to like buy out somebody's booth?
Oh my God.
Whose booth did he try to buy out?
Vinegar Syndrome again. They shut him down pretty quick. They remembered him. He came up. They remembered his
Was it the same
face.
people? Okay.
Get away from here.
Yeah, it was.
Get away.
Why do they shut him down? Why do they not want to sell?
Because they want to
him?
spread their brand instead of like reselling.
He offered to buy smaller and smaller portions, but they're just like, they just don't want to do. I mean, that's not really what they're there for, anyways. You know.
Yeah, I know, but he's not trying to like talk down their price, is he? He's just like offering to buy it. No. So they do work you a deal. Like the more you buy, the more affordable it is. Okay. I see. So he's just trying to buy above what they typically offer people.
Yeah, because most people don't want to buy 100 movies from them. You know, that's not normal.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. Okay, I see. Okay, never mind then. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Old Mikey, always trying to.
He's a wheeling and dealing.
He is. That's his thing.
Funny that they shut him down
that
and
Serbian film
remembered
part
him.
5. Even Serbia.
That's awesome. Oh,
keep serving.
Well, Bob, you delivered. You delivered this week.
Spilled my beans. That's it. That's all we got this week. We're going to be back next week with a brand new show. We're going to be talking about Dr. Sleep. So check it out. Get ready.
Sleep on it.
Yeah.
Do not.
Don't sleep on it. Exactly. Anthony, thank you so much for joining us yet again. It's always a pleasure having you on the show. Why don't you go ahead and tell people where they can find all the stuff that you do?
Yeah, sure. Thank you guys for having me. It's always a pleasure. I always love being able to goof off and also be talk all nerdy with you guys. It's super fun. But yeah, so I'm the founder of Something Ghoulish. You can find our video series on YouTube, just as Something Ghoulish. You can also find our some of our podcasts in your local podcast app, Ghoulish Cast, as well as Gargantucast now. Yeah, and we have some really, really cool stuff cooking up in the kitchen, rolling out for 2020, and we're really excited to show it to all of you there. So you can follow us on Twitter at Ghoulish Show and on Instagram at Something Ghoulish. And we have a new subreddit. We have an official subreddit now, so you can join us there and post whatever you want, as long as it's horror or something ghoulish related, and talk with us.
The straight chilling.
Yeah.
Here I come, baby.
But yeah. Thank you guys.
Awesome. Sounds
yeah,
dope.
man.
Thanks, man.
Check out his shit because you won't regret it. So yeah, until next week, please rate, review, and subscribe to us on iTunes. You can follow us on Twitter at STR8_chilling, Instagram at Straight Chilling Podcast. You can send us an email through our website, straightchillingpodcast.com. If you want to join us on our Slack channel and talk about the movie of the week, spooky TV, music, news, video games, all that fun stuff, hit us up on any one of those social media platforms. Let me know, and I'll send you a link so you can join in on that. Call us. Spill your beans. We want to hear from you. Drop your dirty little secrets.
Your beans.
Dirty little secret. Who has to know? We do. So yeah, until next week, as always, everybody, please keep chilling.